again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Good morning. Welcome to our special edition of Impactful Conversations with Gail Guest Brown. Today we have a special guest. For those of you who don't know, we created this forum specifically for elevating and lifting the voices of Black women. So I think we are right on point with that today. I'm Gail Guest Brown, CEO of Guest Brown Impact, an award-winning leadership development firm where we work with women of color to overcome challenges to equity, leadership development, pay equity in the workplace. So today, though, we are hosting our special talk called Spilling the Tea with Dr. Flo. We're going to talk about Dr. Flo, who she is, and we're going to spill the tea on running for office, right? Where does one get the courage to run? All of that stuff. So at Guest Brown Impact, our vision, I'm sorry, I went off script, but our vision is women standing in their power, speaking their truths, and commanding their worlds. At Guest Brown Impact, we truly believe that these gender and racial inequities are simply the leadership challenge of our generation. Today, our special guest is Dr. Flo-Jeanne Coffer. And I can't wait for you to meet her. If you haven't met her, you're in for a real treat. I have known her for a little bit about 2 or 3 years. I don't know her personally, but I know her to be a stand-up person, and I can't wait for you to meet her. So today, I want to introduce you first with her bio, and then we'll bring her on, okay? Dr. Coffer is a nationally trusted public health professional, a seasoned California policy expert, and a consistent local advocate pushing for a Sacramento that both protects our health and serves everyone. We need a Sacramento that serves everyone. As Senior Director of Policy for Public Health Advocates, she directs her team leading health equity initiatives focused on state policy and prevention, response and recovery from public health emergencies. Dr. Flo previously led the Preconception Health Initiative for the California Department of Public Health, working to ensure vital maternal health and reproductive coverage was included in the Affordable Care Act. She's also deeply committed to civic engagement, having served on various capacities on local boards, committees, and commissions, including serving 4 terms as chair of the City of Sacramento Measure U Advisory. Dr. Flo, let's not forget to talk about that service there. I'd love to hear more about that. She was raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania by 2 public school teachers and moved to Sacramento 20 years ago. She's a resident of South Sacramento. Let's bring on Dr. Flo so others may meet her. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Gail. I'm doing well.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule today. I heard you just earlier, you were telling me you were at seven events yesterday.
Yes, all over Sacramento. Just connecting with our communities and showing up in ways that allow us to be able to know what's going on and for our communities to feel seen and heard.
Awesome. I've seen you at things like the Bikers Association. I saw you at the Black Cowboys. All over Sacramento. You were at the, what was it yesterday in William Land Park?
Yesterday was Banana Festival in William Land Park, but there was also the District 1 Forum with Councilmember Lisa Kaplan and Mayor Darrell Steinberg. And at Thomas, there was the launch of Measure E, which is the library initiative to make sure our libraries can stay open 5 days a week. It's not a tax. to be on your ballot in November. There was also the Green Tech Summer Celebration, celebrating building infrastructure for electric vehicles, especially in lower income communities and communities of color. And so that was in the North area as well. There was also the Golf Course Terrace Estates Neighborhood Association Ice Cream Social, and then the Marcus Garvey celebration yesterday took place, which was really lovely, and then going to Sierra Club, and then the Pakistan Independence Day celebration. So it
Oh
just
my
really,
gosh.
the diversity of Sacramento and what we have to offer in all the different areas of the community, and just, it was a wonderful day, and I loved connecting with my neighbors and and new friends, soon to be friends, people across the region. It was really nice.
Awesome, awesome. Dr. Flo, this is amazing. You're a first-time candidate, and I cannot believe all the things that you get into, all the things you do, and how well you did in the first election, you getting more votes than all of the career politicians. I love the fact that you are a public health, servant. You're not a career politician. And so, but before we get into all that, I want people to know who you are as a person. And so I love when people tell me a little bit about their people and where they're from. And so I hope that you will take some time to just right now introduce yourself to people who may not know you in Sacramento. I don't know how they can't know you because you're everywhere, but there may be people who don't know you.
No, there are 500,000 people, a little over 500,000 people in Sacramento, so I do not know all of them. And so I welcome the opportunity to introduce myself. As you mentioned in my bio, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I am the daughter of two public school teachers. My mom taught 8th grade English, and my dad taught 8th grade math, and that's actually how they met. And so for me, growing up in Pittsburgh, my core values were shaped by my experiences, the experience of community taking care of each other, my parents helping kids in our neighborhood to apply to college if they wanted to go, and also benefiting from the really tight-knit neighborhood where my neighbors babysat me when my parents had PTA meetings, where my dad was coaching girls basketball, where they fixed things around our house, where we all were able to contribute what we had and take what we needed. And so that was a real sense of collaboration and partnership that I learned early on without anybody ever using those words. Those were just like some of the first values that were instilled in me there. I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, a historically Black college for women. I'm actually drinking from my Spelman mug this morning, my coffee. And then I went to the University of Michigan for graduate school in public health. I am an epidemiologist by training. I'm sure many more of you know what the word epidemiologist after having gone through several years of a pandemic than you did before. But in case you don't, it's the people who study why we get sick and what we can do about it. And so I have been working in public health for now 20 years.
Wow.
And that's actually what brought me to California 20 years ago, was coming here at the California Department of Public Health. And since then, I've stayed and gotten involved in our cities and in our neighborhoods, and really just have fallen in love with Sacramento. I've lived here now longer than I ever lived in Pittsburgh, and this is what I consider to be my forever home. And so I'm really excited to be around, because I think it's really a problem-solving position, a position that brings together some of the strengths and some of the experiences I've had in public health, of working well with communities, of being able to solve problems, of being able to create partnerships amongst unlikely or unknown potential allies, and to really just strengthen the ways in which we work so that we can enjoy our lives, because public health is about the two things that matter most to our species as humans: the number of years in our life and the quality of life in those years. And so our city has a key role to play there, and I want to make sure we do it well, and that we are able to take advantage of all the strengths of the city council members to be able to do it, the 5,000 staff we have in the city of Sacramento, and of course over 500,000 people who live in this community who can help us along the way to be able to achieve some.
Awesome, awesome. What I hear there is that you're really concerned about our lives, and this is perfect for this role. Has been preparing you to be mayor, because it's a nonpartisan position. As mayor, you have to be concerned with all the people of Sacramento, not just the Dems, not just Republicans, not just the brown people, but all the people of Sacramento. And this role as a public health professional, that is exactly your charter there as well, right?
Yep. Exactly. And I think sometimes, Neil deGrasse Tyson said something that really stood out to me a few years ago. And he said, when I look, he was talking more about the federal representation, but it's true at the local level as well. He said, when I look at who's representing us, what you mostly see are, over 90% of our elected officials are attorneys or come from that sort of background. And he said, where are the scientists? Where are the teachers? Where are, the public health professionals? Where is everybody else, right? We have a really diverse workforce. And yet when it comes to elected representatives, we're really seeing a disproportionate number of people coming from one particular sector. And, and this is nothing against, the attorneys, but, one of the I think the things that makes it so important to balance this out is that there are people from other perspectives who think about challenges in different ways, right? A lot of law school is teaching you how to understand and how to, reinforce and work within the law. But there are many other sectors that teach us also how to create the law. Right. How to create something new, how to innovate, right? And so it's important that we both know how to operate within our current systems. And that's why it's important to have our attorneys and to have people with that background as part of the team. But when they're the entirety of the team, then where are the people who are coming from the other sectors who can to round that out and be able to bring those other perspectives? And so I think public health ones, especially, those of us who come from a more science and a more data-informed background, we are woefully underrepresented when it comes to our elected officials. And we have a lot to say because these systems are essential to doing the work that we find so valuable, which is maximizing, like I said, life expectancy and quality. And it's something that people in our communities are talking about in roundabout ways as well. So it's a great marriage and partnership, and I'm excited to see more public health people getting involved. One of my grad school classmates, Dr. Joni Ricks Odie, is on the city council now in Long Beach. So we have another epidemiologist in the state of California who's running. And just last night, when I was at the Sierra Club Awards dinner, I met a woman who is an emergency room nurse who's running for city council in Tracy. So it's exciting to be able to see more people coming from these public health and, kind of what I would call in this sector, alternate backgrounds running for office.
Awesome. That's such a great point. I haven't thought about that before. But when I think about public officials, they have to really be able to articulate well. I mean, they got a lot of things coming at them. They've got to be able to speak to the points, all things you do quite well. I think it equips you to be in this space, right? But I can see why it's heavily attorneys, right? Because they are so equipped to spin. But we do need diverse perspectives. So awesome. I guess that speaks to a little bit of your why you're running.
Okay. It does. I feel like we all have something to contribute in our communities, and I really want to make that possible. I've served on the Active Transportation Commission for the city. I was the current mayor's appointee to the Climate Commission, which was done in partnership with the West Sacramento mayor, and West Sacramento is in Yolo County. I know sometimes we get a little confused because East Sacramento is a neighborhood in the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento, but West Sacramento is its own city in another county. So very confusing sometimes, but that was done jointly between those two cities. And then I also, chaired the Measure U Community Advisory Committee, which was a tax advisory committee for 4 terms. I also worked on the Sheriff's Outreach Community Advisory Board with the county and helped with some of the Mental Health Services Act work. And for the next couple of weeks before I am leaving my position at Public Health Advocates, I am still the technical assistance provider for the county's Community Health Improvement Plan. So I've been working with the city and the county and also at the state level with some of the policy advocacy for a while. And what I see as real opportunities for us is the opportunity for collaboration. I also see the places where we have lots of plans, but then we don't always put them into practice. I see places where sometimes we are short-sighted in our thinking, and so we view our budgets as just 1 year that we either balance or we don't, and we're not thinking about the quality of investments and what the long-term savings or what the long-term revenue generation is from making a small investment now and how that can yield dividends along the way. And so that's part of what I want to bring to the table is invest $1 million this year in transportation, and we can draw down dollars from the state, that's a huge investment, especially if it allows us to save money long term, and answer some of our challenges. If we defer maintenance because we don't have the money right now, those, the maintenance challenges continue to accrue. And we end up in a situation where we end up losing something like Rio City Cafe in the waterfront because we, as the city, are now being kind of the slumlord that hasn't done the maintenance necessary to keep it open and to make it thrive. So those are the questions, I think, that when you come at budgets very differently, when you come at policy making very differently from this other perspective, you can kind of round out the perspective that says, hey, we don't have the money, and then says, but with the money we do have, how should we be spending it so that we have money in the future and that we're doing things that don't put us in a worse position in the future, but put us in a better one.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. That was so sad to hear that Rio City was shutting down. But I love the fact that looking at things a different way, instead of the same old way, getting the same old results.
That's right.
I really believe that your campaign is the best chance for transformational leadership that Sacramento has seen. And I believe that's a quote from the Sacramento Bee, who actually supported you in this campaign, right? And so
yes, I was grateful for their endorsement, and they really, I think, spoke to what is unique about this campaign, and that we are running the campaign differently, right? And so how you do little things is often how you do big things. How you campaign is often how you govern. And so we have made this an open call to Sacramentans who want to see change, who, again, don't have to agree with us on everything, but want to be a part of the change, want to have their voices heard. That's what we're building. And so we're doing that in our campaign. We have, we trained over almost 100 people over the course of 2 days at the end of June to launch 13 volunteer teams. They were there from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. That's a high level of commitment, 8 hours, your entire weekend. And people came and they stayed, and then they've launched these volunteer teams that are out knocking doors and hosting events and getting their communities involved, because that's how we govern. Like, we are building the infrastructure now to be able to continue on this work as we begin to govern. And so it's exciting. And we've done something here that I think a lot of people thought wasn't possible, which is, we've been able to, without taking corporate money and just inviting individuals to be a part of the campaign, we were able to, come in first in the primary by 9,000 votes and win 57% of the precincts. And we did it because of volunteers, right? We had almost 500 volunteers supporting the campaign. We had, artists and small dollar donations, and we were really able to run a campaign in that way because we gave people a role. And that's something that we need to see happening at the city level as well. We are too often making decisions without the benefit of collaboration and with the benefit of input from people who are deeply vested in these issues and topics and who have things to offer. And so when we don't build in time for them to be able to tell us, hey, if you amended this, hey, it would be better. Hey, we'd love to be a part of you on this. Hey, we're already working in this area and we have something to offer. Then we end up doing things that either don't work or that shut out the most important voices. And so that's it's not always, as I say sometimes, the sexiest part of the campaign is saying, look, we're going to slow down and we're going to tell people what we're up to and we're going to invite more people into the decision making. But it has the potential to be the most transformational element. It has the potential to really allow us to spend our money well. And it has the potential for us to actually create long-term change instead of just short-sighted small things, but being able to do those big things that are hard, that require us to have collaboration in order for there to be sustainability.
More voices at the table. I love that. I love your campaign slogan, "We are running for mayor."
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not just running for mayor. We are running for mayor. That means I'm going to include you. Your voice is going to be at the table, right? I'm going to represent you. I have to know you to do that. And I think it speaks to why you're all over the place on the weekends, right? I mean, you're all over the place. You're at the bikers convention. You're at this convention and that convention because these are Sacramentoans that you have to now represent as mayor. So kudos to you. I want to talk to your other tagline, like more is possible. So why did you pick that tagline and what's that about?
I often like to dream, and I really like to speak to the dreamers. So if you consider yourself a dreamer out there and you have been sort of in the closet in some ways, I want to invite you out, because I think so often we get beyond childhood. We are told that dreaming is, makes us impractical, it makes us unreasonable, it makes us untethered to reality. And we actually are needed to be able to do the important transformational work. If you want to see change, you have to have people who see the possibility of what doesn't exist. And I will never forget having a conversation with my aunt, and I don't even remember what the topic was, but I said, "Can you imagine?" And I was like talking about some hypothetical scenario, and her response to me was, "Well, that will never happen." And I said, "Maybe so, but like, can you imagine what if?" And she couldn't get past it. She was like, "But it won't happen." And I was like, at some point I said, "Auntie, this is just you and me on a phone call. We don't have to spend any money. We can just have a conversation about it." But I think a lot about sometimes the fact that our imagination is the first thing that gets taken from us when we get so deeply entrenched in our current existence that we're not able to even dream about how things could be different. Because if you can't dream it, you certainly can't put a plan in place and develop the resources and bring people on board for it, right? And
Right.
so it's an example of how we sometimes don't even get an opportunity to really fully consider a challenge, because we are so caught up in what is and all the ways that it hasn't worked in the past, or that we haven't been able to, and what we don't have. It's a deficit model. And I want us to think about the strengths that we have. I want us to think about where we want to be, because the truth is, as much as I talk about data and evidence, all of this is made up. When we decided to go about creating the country and its current structures and the policies that we have, a lot of them didn't have evidence to be able to support them. Ideas that someone decided to put in place. And so we shouldn't be hampered by what is, because then we never get to see what could be. And so I frequently say to myself, all of this is made up. So why do we keep choosing an existence that doesn't work for us? Like, we keep choosing this reality where people don't have enough, where people are stressed out and are struggling, and it's all by our own design. And I know that can seem big, right? But like, there's enough food on planet Earth to be able to feed us. Hunger is a decision that we make about how we're going to distribute our existing resources. It's not about something, right? And that's a big problem. But it's also a reminder to us that if we decide to change how we do things, we can get different outcomes. And so I do think that it's possible for us to have more. I do think it's possible for us to be able to work together in ways that don't mean that you, Gail, have to lose in order for me, Flo, to win. I think that there is an overlapping part of that Venn diagram where both of us win, and we should try our hardest to be able to operate in that part of the circle as often as we can. And I don't think we often come to the table with that perspective. And so More is Possible is a way to remind all of us that it doesn't have to be like this, that we have other options, that we can dream, and that we can bring to bear a future that like the place we want to live.
I love it. I love it. I do think more is possible. I'm totally drinking the Kool-Aid on that one. Or the tea. That's right. We're supposed to be spilling the tea. Speaking about
tea. What does your mug say, Gail?
Guest brand impact. My business. I see Cheryl Gilmore is joining us from Roseville. And I welcome Roseville, because we've got a lot of support for Roseville. We're very close to Sacramento. So what happens in Sacramento, we care about, right? And when I saw Dr. Flo running, I'm like, yes, I'm all in. Sacramento needs some transformational leadership. They need some new ways of being, some new ways of thinking. And I knew her to be a stand-up person, so I was all about it. We had an event here at the house, and all of the donors were from Roseville, right? They donated from Roseville. They can't even vote for Dr. Flo, but we raised money for Dr. Flo. And I want to remind people that this is a fundraiser. This tea with Dr. Flo, it's an opportunity to meet the candidate and hear from her directly. But it takes money to run for office, right? Someone has to create all of these pamphlets and flyers and signs and It just takes money, and pay campaigners, right? I mean, not the volunteers, but the person leading her campaign has to get paid, right? So it takes money. And so whatever, if you can donate in whatever amount today, we would be so grateful. Please put your name in the chat. I'm donating. You don't have to put the amount. We've got some prizes for you, right? We're going to look, I'm donating today. I support Dr. Flo today. And you don't have to put the amount. I want to thank early donators like Barrett and Faye and Tori for voting, and Janet for voting already, not for voting, for donating already. We've already raised $650 before we even went live, right? So we're hoping to raise more today. Thank you. I have a goal though. You know me, I'm goal driven. I have a goal. It will, this link will still work after the day. Please drop the link in the chat. It will still work after the day, but my goal is to raise $3,000 just from the virtual effort, right? So it gives people a chance to meet the candidate. And, you know, I don't know about you, but when Kamala Harris came to town, you had to pay $3,000 a ticket to go see her. This one, you don't have to pay that. You can just any amount, right? And meet the candidate. So thank you, Dr. Flo, for joining us today.
Thank you. Before you go on, can I just say a little bit about, a lot of people, I think sometimes, especially if you haven't donated to a campaign before, you're like, where does the money go, right? And you alluded a little bit to it of like where the dollars go. So in a campaign, the candidates don't get paid. So we do this because we are running and we are a part of the campaign. But we do want to make sure that we are paying a living wage and honoring our values with our staff. And so I have, a campaign manager and field staff that are the ones who are launching my canvases and organizing, the lists of people that we're knocking on and analyzing those data afterwards to say how many doors did we hit and what did we hear and how does that inform our overall strategy. We have people working on communications, making sure that, we are putting out good, press releases and, videos and ads and all the things that we need in the campaign. Designing our materials, as Gail, you mentioned, and just doing those things. And then the lawn signs, right? And making sure that we have literature to be able to give people when we knock on doors, and that we have buttons so that people can begin to identify with the name and make sure that we have the things that we need to be able to be around town. So all of those things cost money. And so if you're able to contribute, it really does help us because everything in the campaign costs money. We just spent over $12,000, that you heard that correctly, to put that 200-word, overview into the voter booklet that's mailed to every voter. And we've had to do that twice now. So in the primary, we had to spend $12,000, and we just cut a $12,000 check for that. So when we're looking at our lawn signs, right, we spent almost $10,000 buying lawn signs. So all of those things cost a lot of money. And so when you're able to make a campaign contribution, it really does help us to be able to get out the vote, to be able to have the materials we need, to be able to make sure that we have the name ID and that we get voters out. And so every bit you can offer helps. And also if you're able to make a recurring contribution of any size, it allows us to then be able to plan. We know that your dollars are going to come in next month. So it allows us to be able to do some future planning around what we're able to spend on.
That's awesome. I gotta love Fox Rogers for tagging at a canvassing event. She's at a and playing this out on the speaker. That's all right. That's next level. That is killing two birds with one stone. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting us know.
No birds have to die. We can feed two birds with one feeder. That's my new saying.
Oh, I love that. You can feed two birds with one. That's better, right? Right. That's an ugly saying that we have just in a lexicon. It just rolls off your tongue.
It's not even, I know it comes from a history of, like hunting and all those things. It's like, why the birds got to die for us to collaborate?
Thank you for helping me catch that. We got all kind of stuff in our words and our lexicon that we just don't even think about, right? I love it. I love it. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and for others out there, I am so encouraged by all the women I see running for office. I see Dr. Dante Early running for mayor, West Sacramento mayor. There's so many people running for office. And I look at them and I think, wow, that really takes courage. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to make that decision? So, for me, I thought about 4 C's, courage, commitment, cash, of course, and character, right? You have to be a person of good moral character. That's the theory. I'm still
Yeah.
a presidential candidate, but that's the theory. Yeah, you must be of good moral character. And so those are the 4 C's. I definitely see them evident in you. But speak to which of those you draw on, and what is it? How do you even say I'm going to run for mayor? How do you even have the courage to think like that?
Yeah, it's so I will say that this was not my idea. And that's not the way that it worked for everyone, but for me, it definitely was not my idea. And I was really, being very transparent. I was very strong no. I meant it when I said no, for all the reasons that people, now are like, why would you want to do this? Right? It's, you're giving up a lot of your own privacy. You are, you're taking on this role where you're taking on a lot of responsibility, and there are a lot of big problems, and people want them to be fixed immediately, and people are going to blame you and are going to be upset, and so you have to hold a lot of people's emotions. It's a lot of responsibility, and it's not the best paying job in the world, right? I mean, you're paid, you're certainly much more than a living wage, but also it comes with a lot of stress, a lot of time commitment, right? I mean, I by the time this whole thing is over, I will be running for the better part of 2 years, having also had a full-time job and a family and other responsibilities, right? And I do this again, I'm not getting paid, and I'm actually, leaving my job at the end of the month. So I'm actually, stepping away from my financial security, right, to be able
Scary.
to have even more time and to transition into this role. So it's a lot. And so what I will say is that with all of that, I went into my yes knowing fully well what my no's were, and being clear-eyed about the fact that there were going to be sacrifices I was going to make, and that all those things that made me no for so long, when so many this community said, Flo, I think you should run. Flo, I think you should run. Flo, I think you should run. And I was like, no, no, no. Reasons why I was a no still exist. But I've now clear-mindedly and with full consent gone in and said, okay, I'm a yes, which means now I have to acknowledge why I had those no's, and what I'm going to do to be able to either address my own internal attitude about them, or that I'm going to find ways to be able to combat the things that I knew were going to be challenging. So instead of throwing an adult temper tantrum and going, I don't like this isn't fair, I went into it knowing these are the things I'm probably not going to like, and so here's how I can either make them better or accept them or have people around me. So I have a therapist. I have somebody who I can call up and talk to. I have, a coach. I have people who pour into my life, so that when I have to pour, I'm not pouring from an empty cup, but I'm pouring from a very full cup, because people are constantly pouring into me and checking in to see how I'm doing. I, go to the gym at least 3 times a week and make sure I'm getting to be able to move my body. I get a 2-hour massage once a month to be able to have some time to really relax and, de-stress. I try to stay hydrated and get enough sleep at night. Do those things that really allow me to be able to be at my best capacity. So I think that's also an important part of it, because in order to be able to have the courage, you also have to be well cared for yourself. And that has been a part of it. But I also recognize that some of my no's were that this is hard, and you're bringing together a lot of different people who have different ideas about how to do things, and you have to be able to hear all of them out, and you also have to still be able to hear your own voice at the end of the day. And that can be hard. And it can especially be hard if you are still trying to figure out some of those foundational elements of who you are and where you stand on things, because now you have people who come in with a vested interest, and sometimes you can hear their voices louder than your own. And so for me, it's been very important to make sure that I still hear my voice. People-powered campaign was strategic in a lot of ways. Number one, I want to be beholden to the people who live in this community, to the individuals who care about me and who care about this community and want to see it. Didn't want to be beholden to special interests in this way that had an outsized impact on how I did things. I was beholden to the people who live here. And so that was important. But it's also important because then they also ground you and hold you accountable to the values that you shared that made them support you in the first place. It's also important because it allows you to be able to have more people at your back when you're facing difficult decisions, to be able to help you think through them and think through the pros and cons. Like, there's all of these ways that having people in your corner and doing things in a certain way can also help you then when you need to go back and rely on it, right?
Oh, I think we're frozen. Well, it's no surprise to me that it was a thoughtful endeavor, that she thought it out and decided to run, right? So I don't know what happened to Dr. Flo. Is she frozen or is she gone? Oh, there you go.
Okay, sorry. I think something popped up on the screen and it disrupted.
You were going though. You were going for it. You were talking about
having my team is trying to access something, and I'm getting all of these back and forth. So hopefully my team can hold off on trying to access Airtable for a moment until we finish this, so that it doesn't interrupt us again.
Awesome.
Yeah, we all get these notifications sometimes, and because I'm using my phone for clarity.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
But I do think that there's this way of being able to, what we build when we have people. Hey, how do we get to more places to be able to win an election? It's also about how do we govern together and how do we build that apparatus and strengthen those muscles so that they become stronger over time and we can rely on them more and more. And so for me, that's part of the courage, is recognizing that I don't have to have the courage alone, that I do it with other people, and that they're there to be able to help to guide some of the potential pitfalls of being in this position and the challenges that come along the way. And so that to me is I think one of the important parts of distributed leadership is recognizing that you get to do all of these things with help. And I know, because this is a show, that it was started by Black women, and to talk about the voices of Black women, that often is something that we're not accustomed to. We are in a position sometimes where we feel like we have to do everything alone because sometimes the help that we need hasn't shown up. And so being part of a community also means that we now need to learn how to ask for help and to receive it when it comes. And
Awesome.
I started practicing that, honestly, at the request of some friends, in small ways. When I'm walking out of a store and somebody says, "Hey, can I help you with that?" My inclination is to say, "No, I got it," because I do. But I started, several years ago, saying, "Yes, thank you." Like, practicing accepting the help when it's offered to you instead of always rejecting it.
Right?
And it's a small thing,
I got it. It's almost automatic.
You can get your bags to your car. You can get that thing, right? But somebody offered, share it with them.
Yeah, I love that. It's not automatic, right? It's not your automatic response, but practice accepting help. And I love the fact that you have grown and to think about this as distributed leadership and shared responsibility. Means you're going to help me with this, right?
You're running for mayor, Gail.
You're running for mayor. You're going to help me figure this out. I don't have to have all the answers.
At all.
Some of the answers lie with you out there, and you're going to come to my office and tell me what you think about X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to listen to you. I love that, Dr. Flo. Of course, it was thoughtful. And I so admire the courage of people who are able to run for office. But you helped me see that there's a lot of positives in running for office too. You're growing your network, you're growing your friendship base. You've got people who will support you. You're not in these decisions alone. And so that's also another nugget that I'm picking up today. So thank you for sharing that with us. Are there any other C's that we're missing? You said caring, caring for yourself was another C.
Yes. This is not a suicide mission. I tell my team that all the time. This is not a suicide mission. We are in this to honor our values, and that means, those public health values of the number of years in our life and the quality of life in our years. And so that means that we burn ourselves out in the service of taking care of ourselves and living in healthier communities. How does that make sense? Right?
That doesn't make sense. No.
It means that we really try to live those values. So the caring for ourselves is something, again, I think that a lot of leaders, but in particular, Black women sometimes we're so accustomed to putting everybody before our own needs, and that we burn ourselves out and we don't live our full life expectancies and have the quality and the health and the rest and all of those things that we should have because of that. And so, you know, the saying of work hard, play hard, I want to change it to like work hard, rest hard too, right? Like how are we as serious about the things that we need to do for ourselves as we are the things that we need to do for other people? And it's been a journey, but recognizing the value we all get and the joy we get in helping others, and not denying that to other people who want to help us, right? And so I think that's also the other mental part of saying yes when people offer you help, is that it feels good when you help others. Don't deny people their joy. That's part of your role.
I love that. You know what? Now that I've heard you speak on this point, I think more of our officials should be public health professionals. It's just a more inclusive, it's just a more holistic way to look at life, right? It's so I appreciate you for that. Thank you so much. Dr. Flo, before you leave, I think about others coming up behind us, and for those coming up behind you, what words of wisdom do you have to share with those coming up behind you?
Yeah, I this is something that I thought about when I was younger, because I found myself, you know, in my late 20s and early 30s, which of course is not that long ago, so now a decade or so ago. But I remember thinking to myself, as I was having conversations in the Nehemiah Emerging Leaders Program and other places about and feeling, you know, a level of frustration, especially with these generational ideas of leadership, of not leaving, right? People dying in office, people holding on for dear life, you know, long after maybe they're able to do the job in the way that they would want to.
Right.
And I started thinking about why, right? And part of it is that, you know, we're all on this slow march towards the end of our lives. We have a limited amount of time, and it can feel it's easy to put that off when you're younger, but the closer you get, the harder it is to be able to accept it, because it's a difficult reality of life, no matter how you spin it. And so I think part of what we have to do sometimes is sort of design around our human nature, right? And the human nature of wanting to stick to something too long, or not recognizing when we're in a position where we should start building the bench and mentoring others. And so that stood out to me, because I thought a lot about professionalism and what it means to dress a certain way and to look a certain way and to, you know, show up in the world a certain way. And if we want to change that, if we want to expand our definition of professionalism to not just be sort of a cultural norm for what is most, you know, right, like cisgendered white men, we have to recognize when we have power in showing up differently. And so for me, the gift I'm trying to offer to the next generation of people who are watching and who are a part of this, who are younger than me, is kicking open and blowing up the notion of what a professional looks like. I wear bright colors. I wear large earrings. I wear my Bantu knots. I dance. I talk about my thing and the importance of mental health and the importance of rest, because there were some people in my life who were able to do that, and I want that to become the norm. When people think about what does it look like to be a professional, how does a professional, you know, comport themselves, I want them to think about this. I want this to be someone's understanding of what this can look like, and I want them to then be able to take the baton and go even further than I could imagine. And so for me, it was important to recognize, like, here I am on this stage showing an entire generation or two of people what it means to run for mayor, what it can look like, and having other people come up to me and say, you know, I'm Indian, and we often have these beautiful, you know, adorned earrings, and I have stopped wearing them because I was told it wasn't professional, or I'm Hmong, or, you know, I am Ghanaian, or I am, right, like, and people wanting to be themselves, wanting to wear their hair in their fun colors, wanting to do something different, and somehow feeling as if like their contributions are less valid because they look different. And so I want to make it so that more people can feel comfortable being in a space and being themselves by being more of myself. And I want that to be one of the gifts that I hopefully am able to offer, not only just to the next generation, but also to my peers. That we're in our 40s now. For those of you who are 80s and 80s babies, like, we are in those positions where we're starting to shape what the culture looks like. Don't overlook the influence that we can have on how people see the world, because you will never feel like you've made it. And by the time you do, will then also be dealing with the fact that your years here are probably significantly limited, and you'll be dealing with a whole other, conversation about life and position and all of that. So that's important to me. And it's also important to me to think about setting a time limit at the start so that you're not tempted to stay too long at the party. And so for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm not trying to run for higher office. It's one of the reasons why I'm very committed to a couple of terms as your mayor, and then I want to pass the baton, because I think it is a real benefit and a beauty to be able to have someone who's had the position before to be able to pick up the phone and call and talk to. I get the benefit of having the last three mayors, three, and actually Jimmy Yee, who was appointed, so 4 mayors, right? To be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, when you went through this, how did you handle it? Hey, what are you thinking about this? Awesome. And when we stay too long, you don't get that benefit. So I think that's what I would say in terms of just what we have to offer, how we think about leadership, and how we show up for the next generation. And I hope that whoever comes after me continues to kick the door open and blow up more things and widen our conception of what leadership looks like.
I love that. I think we could use a wider aperture on leadership for sure. You're doing all that. Thank you, Dr. Flo. Before you leave, though, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your what you hope to change. I know homelessness is a big issue, community safety, economic prosperity. A couple of words on that before you leave.
Absolutely. So when it comes to community safety, I think about the most important outcome, which is, do you get up in the morning, go out about your day, and then come back to wherever you started in a way that is safe? Because I know that none of us is hoping to have to call for emergency services, because it means that we've either had a medical emergency or a safety emergency, and we don't want that to happen. So first and foremost, I think about how do we invest so that you are just feeling safe as you move about your day, having to achieve safety because from you, or because it was never achieved in the first place. And so that's talking about building systems that prevent some of the known drivers of crime and violence, and also traffic accidents, which is one of the big threats to our physical safety in Sacramento. And then also making sure that when you do need help, it is efficiently provided and it's the right responder. And so that's looking at outcomes and not being beholden. Well, this person always was my responder, so that's the way it has to be. It's like, what's the best way of operating? So that's one of my goals for public safety, is how do we get a system that works well and has the right people doing the right thing and invest in prevention. When it comes to housing and homelessness, I'm really excited to be thinking about how we can do both long-term investments and short-term investments. How do we build places that people can go immediately? How do we address the hardest to reach people who are often overlooked, and who, if we were able to get them into services, would actually save us a lot of resources, because they're frequently in and out of our emergency departments, our jails, their calls for service. Like, everybody is investing energy in them, but not sustainable energy, and not energy that's towards solutions that are actually efficient and effective and health promoting. Tackle those 200 hardest to reach people in a coordinated fashion, going inch wide and mile deep, and really trying to get folks into housing, term care and services as soon as we can, while also identifying places for people to go, so that we're not constantly engaging in sweeps and other things that don't actually have a solution to them. And then also investing in the 1,500 or families with kids that are experiencing homelessness, because we know that there's an intergenerational effect, that the shorter a period of time we can have them experiencing homelessness, the less likely it is that they experience some of the traumas that make it more likely for them to enter into homelessness again, or have this be a chronic experience. So that's really important. And then when it comes to economic development, the major goal I want to see is, how many times does $1 in Sacramento turn over before it leaves our region? because the sooner it leaves, that means the more we are funding somebody else and not investing in our own. And how many times can we have that dollar popcorn all over the city in various communities before it leaves Sacramento? Those are the things that I'm going to be looking at. We are in a $66 million deficit. And the question people constantly ask me is, what services are you going to cut? How are you going to cut? And there are some things we can certainly streamline to make things more efficient in terms of the city. But the question I'm not asked often enough that I'm asking myself is also, how are we going to maximize revenue without just raising taxes? What are the places where, again, we can make small investments that yield us long-term savings or long-term benefit economically? And that's where I want us to be able to be thinking about our budgets, not just year by year, but also how do we spend today in a way that benefits us in the future? And so those are the things that are really high for me, along with, as we already talked about, just making sure that our communities have more voice by changing the process for public input so that we actually partnerships with our neighborhood associations and our businesses and our nonprofits, and we know who's supporting a piece of legislation and who's opposing and who can co-sponsor with us. We have a model for this at the state level, and we could do so much more at the local level if we were able to structure it in a way that actually said, yes, your help, we want your input, and this will be better with your involvement.
Awesome. That was a mouthful. I'm sorry I made you work that hard, but you covered all the points. Thank you. I'm mindful that it's Sunday and a lot of people will be joining us on recorded, and so after church. But I do appreciate your being here. Is there anything you would like that I haven't asked you that you'd like to make sure that our audience knew about you, or?
Not anything about me. I would just say our campaign is for everyone. If you are a person who's like, hey, I've never really been involved in politics before, I don't really know anybody in this sphere, I would like to get involved, this is the campaign for you. We are, an intergenerational and interfaith and a multicultural campaign of people from all walks of life in Sacramento who are creating a space to be able to work together, and we are really living out those principles that we want to see for the within the campaign. So I invite you to come out, be a part of our phone banking on Wednesdays from 5 to 8, be a part of our door knocking on the weekends, come to some of our events. We have an event at the Makerspace. Shout out to the folks at the Sacramento Makerspace. We're going to be there at the Hacker Lab. So we are going to be there on Tuesday evening. We have a bunch of events coming up, a Women for Flow event that's sponsored by many of the women's organizations that have endorsed our campaign. We want to see you out. There are a bunch of mayoral forums and debates that are going to be happening in September and early October. Come out, watch them, share them with your friends. Join us. We are not a stodgy, kind of campaign. This is the place where you can come, be fully yourself. Introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts are all welcome. We will find a way to be able to maximize your strengths to the things you're comfortable with, expand your skills if there's something you want to do, and we will not put you out there alone. We will make sure that you feel comfortable and that you have people to do things with. And so I just invite you to really come out, be a part of this community. Like, this is a place where your voice and your energy is appreciated, celebrated, and desired. And so we invite you to join us. You can sign up at flowformayor.com. I also want to thank you, Gail, for me on the show. Thank you to Guest Brown Impact for just the work that you're doing in our community. This was really an honor to be able to share this time with you. And again, it's another one of those opportunities in Sacramento where we get to sit down and have a conversation and share my heart a little bit with people and invite them in to share theirs as well. So I look forward to more of these points of connection. We have 79 days until November 5th as of today's
79 days. I think we have a slide that we can share about ways to get involved as well.
That's right.
All right. Thank you. 79 days till election. These are just the days in August. There's door knocking going on August 24th at 9:30 in the morning. You can meet Sacramento Democrats for Justice in Palestine. They're canvassing Curtis Park. And on the 31st at 9:30, they're canvassing and door knocking in Tahoe Park. I've done this. It's a lot of fun. People, you're only talking to people who who are friendly, because other people don't answer their doors.
That's
And
right.
some people just really want to have dialogue. I talked to a guy one day, he talked to us for 15 minutes on his door about his homeless son, right? They care about these issues, and they want to have conversations about them. And I was happy to have a conversation with him. So I hope you will connect to the campaign and volunteer at flowformayor.com. They have phone banking. They also have people that just take the lawn signs out for people who have requested lawn signs. They have people
And they're coming this week. So if you've requested a lawn sign, the deliveries are starting this week. If you have not requested a lawn sign, again, go to the website and request one. We will deliver them to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then we have a little word from Rihanna, I think that was very appropriate for your campaign, Dr. Flo. And so let's show that video from Rihanna.
A woman's problem. It's a Black people problem. It's a poor people problem. If there's anything that I've learned, is that we can only fix this world together. We can't do it divided. I cannot emphasize that enough. We can't let the desensitivity seep in. We have been denied opportunities since the beginning of time, and still we prevail. So when we're marching and protesting and posting, tell your friends to pull up. Imagine what we could do together.
I love that. Imagine what we could do together.
Imagine.
I know more is possible. You're talking to the author of More is Possible, Dr. Flo Coffer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you will donate down below. This is our special link for Spilling the Tea with Dr. Flo, and we're tracking our donations. You know, our goal is $3,000. We don't care if we get there in $10 increments. Just
That's
donate.
Right.
You know, Dr. Flo talked about a monthly donation. That doesn't have to be big. It can be a monthly donation of $20. It's just so that they can create a budget around it, right? If they have $120 donations, they can create a budget around what they can expect to receive and how many lawn signs they can buy and that kind of thing. So don't think big dollars. Think donate what you can, right? So thank you. I appreciate you. And Dr. Flo, thank you so much for coming up. I enjoy you. I am so inspired by you and your campaign and how you hold yourself as a person, as a woman. I appreciate all that you do for Sacramento. I can't wait to see you in office and how you're going to change things up. You're already changing things up with the big earrings. You know,
Yes.
they're so hard. You know, the big earrings. I wore my big earrings for you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Yes, keep it coming. I want us to feel emboldened to be more of ourselves. When we're authentic to who we are, you know, it really has an impact on the quality of the relationships that we are able to establish. People, you know, people trust us more, and it allows us to be able. It's a strong, not a deficit. And so I want us to be able to create more spaces where we don't have to spend so much energy pretending, and we can actually be our authentic selves and spend the energy on collective solutions. Like, you
Collaborating.
put that power somewhere else instead
Right.
of having to pretend to be somebody you're not. Put that power to helping us solve a really important issue. We need to figure out how to store solar energy. Put that thought and energy towards that, not trying to dress up as somebody you're not.
I love it. I love it. You know, that's the other C, collaboration, right? Right. And coordination. Oh, there's all kind of C's in campaign. Creativity, right? I love
Conflict
it.
resolution, right?
Yes, yes. All the C's. We need all the C's in this campaign. So thank you. I can't wait to see you win. I'm calling it as though it is right now today, right? Thank you. I appreciate you. Go out and have a great rest of your day. Don't go anywhere, Lincoln Livers. We and Facebook and Instagram, we have prizes to give away and some other details to share with you. I'm giving away my book today. You don't have to donate to get access to this. My book is about doing the most with the one little life you've been given. And so lots of good tips, quotes, and advice in there. Also giving away this JBL speaker for those of you who can afford to give at the $100 level. This is a good a little speaker to have for like you're out and about, like the campaigner who just put a speaker out, right? It's waterproof, 5 hours of playtime. I hope you will enjoy that. So just put "I'm donating" in the link. You don't have to put how much. You can say I'm donating for the JBL, and then I'll know you're giving at least 100. But thank you for joining us, Dr. Flo. Give us a minute. Give us about 30 seconds to pull names, and we'll come back and tell you who the winners are, and we'll finish the flow. And we'll finish this out, but don't go anywhere. Okay, you can take Dr. Flo and I down while we get our names together. Mute myself. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I guess my mic was muted, but it's unmuted now. Thank you, babe. Thank you for joining us. Did you hear the winners? The winners of this, it's already in the chat, is Tori Newman, and the winner for the book is Cheryl Gilmore. Thank you for joining us. All right. I hope you guys were inspired by Dr. Flo as much as she inspires me. She's an incredible person. And I hope that you will vote. You know, this, even if you don't vote for, I just hope you get out a vote. We all get one vote, and let's not waste it. But before we go there, I'm going to just close out with a few little notes about this month. This month is National Black History Month, and Black Business Month. Black Business Month, right? And we have quite an impact as Black businesses, but we can't do what we do without you. So continue to support Black business. What's the next slide, please? You can see Black businesses create 2.5 million jobs in California and create about $29 billion, just under $29 billion in tax revenue. We support labor to the tune of $82 billion of people employed by Black businesses. So we are an important part of our economy, but you have to support us. We're a small but morning. And I want to remind you that I am a Black business, right? And so Guest Brown Impact is, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Keep going. I am a small business. This one right here, what we offer at Guest Brown Impact, we offer executive leadership coaching, where we work with leaders on leadership development, pay equity, of course, and anything, overcoming challenges. Often leaders feel unsupported in their roles, and coaching has proven itself time and time again. It's a proven help to executive leaders in transition and anything else they need. And then we also have leadership development workshops, equity strategy and DEI workshop as well. And of course, I'm a keynote speaker. So all of these things, please continue to support Guest Brown Impact. We've been in business for 8 years now. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Next slide. Oh, I think the next thing is a video. We have a video from Auntie that I want you to see, Auntie Jennifer Lewis. Let's share that video right now. We all have one vote. I want to encourage you all to get out and vote. Our ancestors have paid a hefty price for that. So don't forget to vote. And we have a
Cardi B, Nicki, Jay-Z, Kiki, it's Auntie.
No!
Cardi B, Nicki, Jay-Z, Kiki, it's Auntie. Serena, Rihanna, Zendaya, B, it's Auntie. I need y'all to help me spread my quote. I need you to help me get these kids out to vote. Why? 'Cause this election ain't no joke. We gotta take this bitch by the throat. So get your ass out and vote. Get your ass out and vote. Get your ass out and vote. Y'all know how I do it. Come on, y'all. Vote.
That's just how my aunties would have said it. So I just had to share that. Jennifer Lewis is crazy, but she is just like an auntie I would have in my family. I encourage you to get out and vote, right? That's important. It's our birthright to vote. And I saw a t-shirt that said, voting prevents unwanted presidencies, right? I think that's so clever. Voting prevents unwanted presidencies. So get out and vote, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope to see you on the next LinkedIn Live, which is September 21st at 11:30, back to our regular time.
And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again.